Right now, there are about 80,000 people waiting for organ transplantation. In 2000, we transplanted about 24,000 people. That discrepancy is very big, and unfortunately, the discrepancy is growing.
We all assume that if we need a heart transplant, we can have it. The reality is that that's not true.
The donor shortage has really reached critical proportions in this country. It's an absolute heartbreak.
Decisions do have to be made, and when there are limitations in financing, that seems brutally unfair.
It's a constant struggle. We have to arm wrestle with the insurance companies and the systems to get the coverage the patients need.
That one drug alone is $1,640 a month. It's just plain unfair.
Trying to locate resources for medical help is a nightmare. You have to be strong.
Any kind of transplant becomes catastrophic health care. Our system does not provide universal access to any kind of care.
My name is Dave Heller, and I am a transplant. I had a second transplant actually 8 days ago, and my first transplant was 12 and a half years ago.
Henry Kirkconnell. This is my wife, Mildred, and we're here for a biopsy. We do this monthly to make sure that she's not rejecting a new heart.
She's got transposition of the great arteries. The pulmonary artery and the aorta are switched. Her plumbing is backwards, and her blood is not getting oxygenated. Nothing else can be done besides a transplant.
Presently, I have liver failure due to cirrhosis from hepatitis C, which is that I'm waiting for a transplant right now.
The major reason why people are waiting for organ transplants is the lack of availability of those organ transplants. Not enough people in the United States are coming forward to say on their death they will be organ donors.
They can do miracles in places like UCLA, but they can't do it unless they've got the organs to do it with, the kidneys, the hearts, and the lungs and livers.
You're dealing with two scarce resources. You're dealing with the scarce resource of the organ, and you're dealing with the scarce resource of money. And because transplantation is such an expensive therapy, thinking about how those services are going to get financed become a bit of a touchy topic.
The list for organ transplants is a list that individuals are placed on, providing hearts, livers, kidneys, all of these different organs.
UNOS is the United Network for Organ Sharing. It is contracted by the government to run the organ procurement transplant network. The job of UNOS really is to manage the lists, to manage the rules of the lists, so the sickest patients in a given region are able to get life-saving transplants as quickly as possible.
A patient is on the list in order first of urgency, if you've got a patient critically waiting in the hospital, and then the patients who are at home in chronological order according to blood type and body size. So once a patient is referred for transplant, they go through a medical evaluation, psychosocial evaluation, and financial evaluation. Once we receive financial clearance for the patient, then we're ready to put the patient on the list. Until that occurs, we can't.
The major issues we think about when we're considering a patient for transplant, first of all, is are they sick enough to really need it? Are there other options? Could they have heart bypass surgery? After we consider the medical issues for transplant, one of the other very important factors is the social support and psychiatric issues for the patient. After transplant, the medication regimen and the needs for frequent visits and heart biopsies and all that is so great that a patient who misses even a day of medications can die from it.
We want to be sure that they will be able to deal with a difficult surgery and some long period of recuperation.
The final step before they make a commitment to you is to evaluate your financial condition and your ability to pay for not only the transplant, but the ongoing drugs and everything else.
Most institutions that offer transplantation as an option have a financial counseling department that's dedicated to the transplant services. And what they will do is sit down and review all of the relevant financial information.
The financial piece of the psychosocial evaluation has to do with identifying the insurance, to understand if the insurance coverage that the family currently has will be adequate to cover the expenses of the surgery and the inpatient hospitalization, the clinic visits, the various kinds of tests that follow that, and the very expensive medications.
Organ transplants are one of the most, if not the most costly medical procedures that get done these days. If you're talking about the transplant operation by itself, that might just be on the order of, $100,000, $50,000. But if you're talking about the cost of taking care of the person in an intensive care unit at $5,000 or $10,000 a day, $500,000 is probably not an unreasonable expectation for the cost. Very few people in our country can think of coming up with that money in their bank account.
When we're looking at the financial process, we're looking at, can they support the organ, whether that's through insurance sponsorship or self-payment. We do require cash deposits if there is no insurance.
That's it. I mean, if you don't have that, we know you need one, sir, but we can't help you. And certainly you got to understand that. It's a lot of money, and they couldn't do it for free.
If you cannot give a hospital the assurance that you'll be able to pay for it in some way, not only will you not get the operation, but you can't even get on the list to wait for the operation.
Absolutely, finances affect someone's ability to get on the list, because if the patient does not have insurance coverage for the transplant, no hospital is going to authorize the patient getting listed.
One of the problems in our healthcare system in this country is that there are so many people who are not insured at all, and many who are underinsured.
We had a $250,000 lifetime maximum in the year 2000, and we ran out of insurance because she spent at least a couple of months in intensive care at Long Beach Memorial. This whole thing's probably cost about $1.5 million. I'd say at least.
Financially, their insurance can either be their best friend or their worst nightmare. Okay, so how you been doing? Any problems?
No, I actually done very well. Since I'm on such high doses of, I've had to go through a lot because I've had 2 transplants, and the first one was almost 13 years ago, and I was on a very large association plan. The association plan basically blew up. The insurance company canceled the whole plan. My premiums went from about $200 a month at that time, and I think in a year's time they're up to $1,500 a month.
Blue 3, that blue's coming out in the front. Basically, we heard from the representative that if that little girl with the heart defect stayed on the insurance policy, that rates would go up 40%. That was a horrible decision for us to have to make. Are we going to make every 500 families pay 40% more out of pocket for insurance, or not?
We've changed our laws so that you can keep your insurance when you lose your job if you can pay for it until you get to another job. But if you've just been laid off, you're not likely to be able to be paying $300 or $400 a month for health insurance.
Ideally, we would like me to not have to work. So far, for 4 years, I've had to continue working just for the insurance.
Property limitations.
Maybe a patient isn't able to go back to their job that they used to have. They're on COBRA, and their insurance coverage is only for an extended 2 or 3 years. The COBRA ends, then they are faced with, now what?
COBRA has a written statement of what the requirements are. Well, if you don't interpret those requirements correctly, there is a very good chance that you could slip up on some of their requirements that will prevent you from getting COBRA any longer, and you will have nothing.
Most people, I think, are really unaware of what the gaps in their current coverage are. I think in order to go to sleep at night, we have to believe that we would be covered, that our children would have coverage if they needed some big medical procedure. I think people might be surprised at what the holes are in their own coverage.
Heart defects happen to everybody, and I know that there are lots of kids who don't have insurance, and they're not going to get this option.
Soup and sandwich. All right. That sounds good.
It is true that we have the anomaly of health care being available readily to people who can pay for it and people who are too poor to pay for it. You can't get the service if you can't pay for it. Unless you're very poor, then Medicaid will cover you.
Medicaid is our public health insurance system. To get on Medicaid, you have to be poor and you have to be sick. It's supplemented by the federal government. They supplement what the states decide they want to spend.
Some states do not cover transplants in their Medicaid program. For example, in Oregon, since they have a limited amount of funding, they have made a decision that transplants aren't covered. So a patient who would need a heart transplant would just not be able to get one.
A family that has been evaluated for a heart transplant for their child has Medicaid coverage. However, before the Medicaid will cover, the family must pay $1,500 every month. You don't eat, you don't make your car payment, you can't make other bills.
If you are financially indigent and can qualify for state support like Medicare, Medicaid, you're fine. The area where the gray zone are for the working class. They're working for a place, a small employer. They can't afford the best of insurance.
I make a decent living. I'm not rich by any means. I'm in the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union, and we make fairly good money. Just enough to where I don't qualify for Medi-Cal.
They say you make too little or you make too much money. And you're saying, how? What do you mean? And then they start adding up your broken car and, everything else.
Yeah, you've got the waitresses, you've got the assistants, the attendants, all these working people that maybe they don't belong to a big organization or company who can provide the adequate coverage. They may be faced with having to sell everything to then be able to do what they call spend down, to where they could qualify for Medi-Cal.
The concept of spending down so that a patient's family can show the financial need required to become eligible for Medi-Cal benefits. That's a very real process, something that happens and that works and is understood.
Now what's taking over are the HMO models of managed care, where they're choking everybody on the receiving end. They'll pay us one amount, and that is to cover from procurement, surgery, hospital stay, and all their outpatient follow-up. We've got your angiogram appointment in 2 weeks, and then we've got your other biopsy appointment for 2 weeks after that, and then we drop to once a month. We get paid one amount to cover their care for a full year. It's insane.
Having a health maintenance organization as your insurance carrier can sometimes be deleterious to their health. It's going to be about 7 to 8. Some patients are not allowed to have a full intensive evaluation in our medical center. Many times they are told that they must have their tests, in fact all their tests, done as an outpatient at their own facilities. Why? Because those doctors have already been paid.
I don't have any complaints, really.
So I think you're doing fantastic.
Yeah, he just needs to-
They're left with doctors who truly don't understand what organ transplantation is all about. Program level was on the high side.
I know, they said so. That's why they stopped it for the day and a half.
Yes.
Doctors do not like to work under those situations. Doctors are trained to put the care of their patients first. They don't want to be in managed care because they don't like having a clerk on the telephone telling them what they can and can't do for a patient.
The HMO, they only pay for so much for this and for that and for this. They think that they can do the biopsies, they can do the labs. They can't interpret. They may be physically able to do the biopsy, but they cannot even begin to interpret them. And then we have to justify everything to them. It's when the priorities of saving money go ahead of the safety and the efficiency of the patients.
Most HMOs have contracts with hospitals to do heart transplants. They go through the review committee at the local hospital, and then it is processed through the review committee for the HMO. And if it is felt to be clinically indicated, they will approve it. Some HMOs are very slow to process the information, so sometimes the patients can die before they even get to the program. Another problem is that sometimes HMOs will make it impossible for patients to get a transplant by requiring them to go an unacceptable distance. Then transplant becomes an impossibility even if officially on record that insurance company says they pay for transplants.
Insurance company says you've got to do it here. And literally they did. They said LA is the closest place, but you're on your own.
Our insurance company pays a one-time only $2,500 living expenses fee. And so we had to pay for plane tickets to come down here, and then this apartment is $1,850 a month. But we've been here 6 months, and we'll most likely be here 3 to 4 to 6 more months or more, which is not covered by insurance.
Plus, we've still got my house in Eugene, our house in Eugene, and we're paying a mortgage on that, of course, a lot less than we're paying for rent here. But you've got to do it. You got to come down and just settle in and find a way to make it work.
Excuse me. Do you miss your house, our real house? I miss it. Me and your mommy miss our house too, don't we?
I don't know if the insurance company has maybe thought it all out on a real life fairness level. You know, what happens to people? Well, yeah, you just got to go down and get your own place. Well, that's may sound like it makes sense, but I'll tell you, going through it, it's like, oh my goodness, you mean I got to do what? And you're not gonna pay for it?
There's another whole aspect of financial issue for a transplant patient, and that is the fact that the medications are very expensive and can be thousands and thousands of dollars per month. Some insurance carriers cover it and some don't.
My medications I get twice a month. One of them I know is $140. Another one $160. That leaves me $100 a month to eat off of. I mean, what do?
I have a patient right now I heard of whose insurance does not pay for brand name medications at all. It's only generics. And in transplant, we have no choice. Our immunosuppressions are not generic.
Thank you.
So that patient would then be forced to have to pay out of pocket. There's no way a patient can afford that.
The money we pay for drugs is just outrageous. We're spending over $4,000 a month just on required drugs to keep her alive. They're probably inflated over 1,000%, because it just can't cost them anywhere near that to manufacture this stuff.
Once they've developed a new drug, they get a patent that protects their monopoly on that drug for 17 years. They get to charge whatever they choose. The argument that they will give you is that they have to recover their research and development costs.
It is certainly true that as new immunosuppressive agents come out, they tend to be more expensive early on, but they tend to be better. And so you don't want to deny your patient either a medication that you think is substantially better for them.
There are small skirmishes that are fought on a daily basis. We like this medication, but the insurance company only approves this other one. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of resources to problem solve.
You're expected to be able to sit down and compare 20 different drug benefits plans. That's an overwhelming choice to make, and usually we're not the ones getting to make the choice, it's our employer.
They would pay for the transplant, which obliges them to a lifelong condition that needs to be maintained. Now, his blood pressure is still a problem, and again, that's from the anti-rejection drug, so it's not anything that you're doing. But they'll only pay for the drugs for a year. You guys aren't getting it. You know, this is a lifelong condition, and these medications are for life. If you get a situation where a patient is very committed to needing a transplant, wanting a transplant, not having the coverage, the bottom line would be fundraising.
The guys in the union, they did a fundraiser for her. They bought a Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, raffled it off, and people bought tickets nationwide. That's what's paying for these biopsies and her monthly medication right now.
There are organizations out there that will help fundraise for patients in need who find themselves falling short from a financial standpoint.
People might take out a second mortgage on their home or sell their home, borrow from family.
Corey's mom has kicked in, been very generous to help out. I've had some friends, some old college buddies who got together, some community efforts back home.
We wouldn't be able to be here if we didn't have savings and family and community support.
At this point, financially, scraping the bottom of the barrel, I need a fundraise so bad. Dollars into the fund, they'll
Contribute $1,000.
contribute $1,000. So what I need to do is to read this. What happens when an organ's donated? It's very difficult for me at this point. I'm trying to figure out how to get started with this fundraising thing, you know, and it's at this point I'm left in a very desperate situation.
Sometimes we have patients that are critically ill and they're not able to physically fill out the forms themselves. So our social worker and our offices have to jump in to help formulate all the documentation. I have to go through and fill out all this medical history and proof of the patient, and they have to provide their W-2 form and all their income. It's very lengthy. So we try as hard as we can to make it as easy for the patients as possible.
With a medical emergency and insurances and trying to locate resources for medical help, you need a filing cabinet. Number one, get organized. I mean, right when you find out you're having a problem, you're going to go for a transplant, and you start seeing doctors, start putting those papers in order right away, because you're going to need them. What I'm faced with now is when I go on to Medicare, the requirement from what I understand is that I have to get reapproved all over again for liver transplant. All this testing and all this money that has been spent to get me to this point has to be reapproved by the Medi-Cal people. And then to add fundraising and have to keep on top of that, it's just overwhelming. It's just like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and you don't know what to do. And you're asking somebody, please help me.
Transplantation is one of the greatest things that any patient and family can take on, medically, financially, emotionally, every which way.
She wound up having a lot of blood clots in the I get a little emotional because she's been through a lot.
It's very stressful for families to be coping with financial pressures, dealing with issues with their insurance company, and how is their child doing, helping support the child, taking care of themselves.
Hi, Daddy, Manny. Thank you.
I think parents do anything they can. Sorry.
It's a helpless feeling, and
Right.
it's not, it's not something we're used to.
And it's those voices you get going in your head sometimes about, well, what's really going on here. I'm an attorney. That's part of my job, is to deal with these kind of things. But you're not just talking about a business deal, or you're not just talking about a fight over money. I'm talking about, how do I get the best health care, keep it available for Eliza.
I think as a human being, two things we try to do is have some sort of control about our life and our environment. But in this case, you don't know when, and you have no control. They want to know where they are in the list, how many people are on the list ahead of them. They try to make it mean something. They worry, and if they have a good day, they're okay. When they're having a bad day, they get very scared. We tell them to try to continue on with their life as best they can, but be ready at a moment's notice.
Final moment is at 6:15 in the morning. They call you and tell you to get in the car and come to the hospital for a new heart. It kind of takes your breath away. In anticipation, that some event like that will take place is about the toughest part of it. And it happened.
Hi, this is Roger at the UNOS Organ Center. A kidney offer for your transplant coordinator on call.
The reality is getting a heart transplant, though it's medically absolutely run-of-the-mill, not experimental, a proven good treatment, there is no inalienable right to a heart transplant in this country.
If you imagined what would happen to you today in our current system if you needed a heart transplant and lost your job, and the treatments lasted for 3 years, what would you do? Compare that to what a single payer system or a system where we had Medicare for the whole country would be like. If we were all in the same risk pool, we would be able to split that risk over the greatest number of people, where everyone has access to health care, whether they lose their job when they get a catastrophic illness, which can really happen to any of us, where you really wouldn't have to worry about it.
The first and fundamental change that needs to occur in our country is for our national government to recognize access to necessary health services as a human right. We use the term safety net in this country to mean that nobody will go without care who really needs it. I can tell you, as a member of the healthcare community, our safety net is tattered. There are a lot of people falling through that net.
Specifically in transplantation, there needs to be a very significant push to get the American public to sign donor cards. The level of donation has remained static for quite a number of years, and it's really a shame and something that we can work on.
As you can see, we can turn sick hearts into healthy hearts capable of enjoying a beautiful Valentine's Day like today. And we have to have the support of all of you, the public, great institutions like UCLA.
Organ donation works. And if anyone were to come to our clinics, they would see patients who are just doing absolutely fantastic.
I've seen tremendously good things come out of transplant. I've seen patients that started out as a teenager grow up, go to college, get their degree, become a very functional, viable person in our community, get married and move on, and that's extremely gratifying.
Whoever the person is that donated their son's heart, we love you. It's just great. My wife's here now because of you, and I don't know who you are. Someday we may find out, but we sincerely appreciate it.
These patients win our admiration. Imagine going through a heart transplant, taking up someone else's heart. Indeed, you've got to have tremendous courage to do that and a drive to survive.
I hope you'll go slow so Daddy can grab you like I like to do.
It's very hard for us to know that our daughter's chance at life will come from another family's tragedy. That's something that everyone in our family really has a hard time with, you know.
Every morning, I drop my girlfriend off at work and I go to the beach. And I listen to the waves and I think. And I go into this place, it's the silent place, the quiet time. Am I worthy enough to live a life for a person that made a choice to want to give their liver to me? And I say yes, because I know what's changed in here. And it's been a big change, very big change. And I wonder sometimes if when they say you're terminal, if that isn't a gift knowing. I think it is, really. I really do.